It's time for Africa. I want some piggy, piggy, mama. Said, I think it's all I'm doing. Piggy, piggy, mama. From east to west, but you have a walk on my head. I walk on my head. And this is from my people, yeah. This is Africa. Time for
Hi,
Africa.
everyone. Thank you. Thank you for the music. Thank you, Abisai. Yeah, good afternoon, everyone, and you are welcome to Leap Africa's Dissemination Wednesday this afternoon. It's a pleasant afternoon. We are broadcasting live from Lagos, Nigeria. Yeah, thank you for joining us this afternoon. You are welcome. Yeah, thank you very much for joining us this early. Yeah, thank you. We are going to commence the conversation briefly. So as you join us, we would like to kickstart the conversation with a brief introduction. So kindly introduce yourself in the chat box so you can tell us about where you are joining us from, your role, the name of your organization, and also you can feel free to share with us what are you looking forward to in this webinar. I know we have a panel discussion lined up for us, but before we delve into that panel discussion and commence the conversation, we want to spend some time, like 1 or 2 minutes, to carry out a brief introduction. We'd like to get to know each and every one of us that are participating in the webinar. Where are you joining us from? So you can use the chat box. So briefly tell us your name, the name of your organization, and where you are joining us from, as well as what you look forward to in this webinar. So let's do that in the chat box in 1 to about 2 minutes or thereabouts. Yeah, thank you very much. You're welcome for joining us. And I'm very sure the topic of our conversation is the one that resonates with almost everybody on the call and beyond, unlocking decent work for African youths. So decent work is something that has been maybe a bit unattainable for many people in this part of the world. And this topic of our conversation today is highly relevant. And we have experts, panelists that are going to be delving into this conversation this afternoon. But before we commence, we would like to spend some time to do a brief introduction. So kindly use the chat box to introduce yourself, share with us your name, the name of your organization, your role, and what you are looking forward to in this webinar. Yeah, thank you. So let's do that in the chat box. You can spend about maybe 2 or 3 minutes to do that before we delve into our conversation. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us. So I'll be looking for I hope you can still hear me. I'll be looking for our responses in the chat box. Thank you. Yeah, good afternoon, Anastasia. My name is Goam Anastasia Kushtabe, joining from Abuja. Yeah, good afternoon, Anastasia. Thank you for joining us. You work with GACC Foundation, and I look forward to learning. Sorry, I'm trying to go through that. Yeah, I look forward to learning ways to unlock decent work as an African for global relevance. Thank you very much. Unlocking decent work as an African for global relevance. Thank you, Anastasia, for joining us. Ayomide Omowai, you're joining from Lagos. Thank you, and we are very pleased to have you here this afternoon. How is Lagos this afternoon? Samuel Saukut, joining us from Abila Statecraft Foundation. You are here to learn, definitely. You are going to learn 1 or 2 things from the conversation this afternoon. Yeah, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Yeah. So please keep it coming. Keep it coming. We'll be reading from you as she'll share with us in the chat box. So we still have a few minutes to do that. Kindly do that as you join us. If you are just joining us, good afternoon once again. It's afternoon from Lagos, Nigeria. We are streaming from Lagos, Nigeria. So on the topic for our conversation today is unlocking decent work for African youths. We know that this is a topic that resonates with many of us, and we are going to be delving into that conversation very soon. But before we do that, we want to spend a few minutes to introduce ourselves, particularly the participants on the call. So kindly use the chat box to drop your name, the name of your organization, where you are joining us from, and what you look forward to learning or taking away from the webinar today. Thank you very much as you do that. Michelle Ochoma, I hope I pronounced the name correctly. You are joining from Ibadan, Lagos, or Ibadan or Lagos, either. Looking forward to getting new ideas and unlocking decent work in Africa as a network marketer. Thank you for sharing, Michelle, and I trust you are going to learn one or two things from the conversation this afternoon. Yeah, we still have a few minutes to do that. Please kindly share in the chat box. You may never know, there could be people on the call that will be looking forward to connecting with you beyond this conversation today. Thank you. I'll be looking forward to our responses in the chat box. Yeah, kindly share. I'm still waiting for us. So for those just joining us, we are just spending a few minutes to do introduction. And we're also streaming live on YouTube. So if you have some of your colleagues, friends, and community members that are unable to join, you can share the YouTube link. We are going to drop that in the chat box. So you can share the YouTube link with your community members to also follow the conversation on YouTube. Okay? All right. Thank you, Simon Adamu. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Simon. Thank you for sharing. My name is Ikechukwu Solomon Obiora. Ikechukwu, thank you for sharing. You're joining us from Jalingo, Taraba State. You are the founder of Next Gen Changemakers Initiative, and I'm looking forward to unlocking decent work and improving myself. Thank you very much, Ikechukwu. I'm very sure you are going to pick one or two things from the conversation from our panelists today, and I'm sure definitely you'll feel that you have ideas and insights to improve yourself and also improve your work at the Next Gen Changemakers Initiative. Musa Kone, I hope I pronounced the name correctly. You are joining us from Sierra Leone, and you are the founder and director of Movement for Education and Advocacy Network, Salon. Thank you for joining us, and I hope Sierra Leone is pleasant this afternoon. Yeah, thank you everyone, all of you for joining us, and thank you for sharing. I'm sure there are people on the call that will want to connect beyond this conversation. Golwa Simon, you're joining from Abuja, the FCT. Thank you for sharing, and you're welcome. Thank you all for sharing. Thank you very much. For others on the call, we're also looking forward to you sharing. We have the numbers of us on the call. Okay. I can see Opetan God joining from Zamfara. Thank you, thank God, and thank God for joining us this afternoon. You are very much welcome. Okay. All right, please keep it coming. Keep it coming. We can still spend about 1 minute. I think we are counting down now. So we are going to delve into the programs and discussions that line up for you this afternoon. Yeah. Okay. So I'm looking forward to maybe one or two people that want to share your name, the name of your organization, and where you are joining us from, and one key thing that you look forward to picking away from the webinar this afternoon. Okay, I have Anthony Ungudo from Borno State. Thank you for joining us. We have many people joining from the northern part of Nigeria this afternoon. Yeah, okay. Okay, I think we can proceed. Yeah, thank you very much to everybody that shared, and as many people that would have loved to share, but we are going to proceed to our conversation now. We'll start. Okay. So as you can see on the screen, the topic of our conversation is unlocking decent work for African youths. And I'm sure as many as we have on the call, we have different experiences looking for decent work from when we finish our studies and looking for employment. So we have our different experiences. So we have a panel discussion lined up for us. And our panelists are going to be unlocking and unpacking this conversation. So before we delve into the panel discussion, we have a welcome address that is going to be taken by our Director of Programs. She's rightly on the call. So we'll be moving forward to the welcome address. So the welcome address will be taken by LEAP Africa's Director of Program. So now I have a profile on the screen now. So permit me and join me as I read the profile. Amabel Nwakama is an international development expert, a strategist, social change agent, and coach. She brings over 15 years of experience in social development, women and health services, designing, managing, implementing, and monitoring youth and women/girl-centered programming, with an emphasis on innovation, education, strategy, empowerment, and sustainable development. She has worked across NGOs, governments, as well as private agencies, spanning 4 continents. Amabe is currently the Director of Programs and Partnership at LEAP Africa, overseeing all high-level programmatic, MEL, learning, innovation and technology, strategies and execution, and portfolio of key youth development areas, including leadership and active citizenship, gender equity and social innovation, education, entrepreneurship, employability, and digital transformation. She has an advanced coaching certificate as well as a BSc in behavioral neurosciences and postgraduate degrees in quality management and global public health and policy. So that's a mouthful, but I'm very sure Amabe Nwakama is pleased to join us. Please join me as we welcome Amabe to take the welcome address. Please use your emojis and reactions. Yeah. Thank you, Amabe. Okay. Yeah.
Good afternoon, guys. So sorry. I'm very ill prepared because I'm at a summit and I have to leave just to come out. So forgive me for the noise in the background, but I wanted to just come and lend my support to just the team and the panelists and just the discussion. I don't have so much to say except welcome. I do not take it for granted when people take out of their busy days to spend time with us, even if it's for 5 minutes, 10, 20, 1 hour, 2 hours, to actually participate and engage with what we're trying to do, what we're trying to share, our perspectives, our products. Very, very meaningful to me, and I know very meaningful to the team at large. So I want to say welcome from all over the continent and maybe even beyond the continent. Welcome. Thank you for taking time to be here. Again, pardon the noise in the background. When I think about this topic, it's a very, very pivotal topic for the work that we do at Leap Africa. Also, me personally, just thinking about young people and opportunities for young people. And you think about unlocking decent work for the African youth. The first thing that comes to my mind is what do we even consider decent work? Because many times we see many people who are employed, but are they gainfully employed? Decent work in my head, I'm thinking around how well are you earning? How dignifying is the job? Does it allow for you to thrive, or does it add some unintended negative outcome? Because it can be a kind of job you do that makes you fall sick after a while. So when you think about decent work, let's think about it across the spectrum of what it could mean, and let's think about it in terms of what our young people in Africa really deserve in terms of the things that they're capable of doing, the opportunities that should be available to them. So I'm very excited about the topic. Looking forward to joining in between my own events here. But I want to again say thank you for being here. Thank you for coming. I believe that you're going to enjoy the conversation. I think you're going to learn a lot. In fact, that's the goal of these Dissemination Wednesday meetings, is for learning and knowledge exchange. We believe we can learn from your perspectives and insights as participants, but we also are excited to share our own thoughts and ideas and perspectives that would enrich you, enrich the work that you do. So please sit back, relax, enjoy. Take in as much as you can take in, engage as much as you can engage. Your comments, your questions are very, very, very welcome. I also look forward to seeing how things unfold over the next hours. Thank you once again and welcome once again. Thanks, Akolade. Back to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Amabe. Thanks for that. And yeah, thank you for making out the time. And even she's actually attending a summit, so that's why the background noise. And apologies for that. And yeah, really thank you for sharing. And it's a very wonderful conversation that we'll be having as you shared. So without taking much of our time, so we'll be delving into the panel discussion now. So to moderate and coordinate that panel conversation, we'll be having our people, culture, and administration lead, Antonia Nabuko. She'll be the one to moderate the conversation. So I'll just quickly read through her profile as I bring her to the conversation. Antonia Nabuko is a strategic talent leader with over 13 years of core sector experience spanning the high NGO, technology, and manufacturing industry. She brings a proven track record in talent acquisition, development, and workforce strategy, driving business success through impactful people practices. Holding a first degree in management and accounting from Ladoke Akintola University of Technology and an MBA from Lagos Business School, Africa's leading business school, Antonia blends business acumen with deep expertise in human capital management. She has successfully led the design and execution of talent strategies that align with organizational goals, foster high-performing cultures, and enable long-term growth. She is certified in management communication from Harvard Business School, data visualization and communication from Duke University, and innovation and entrepreneurship from IE Business School, credentials that enhance our ability to lead with insights, influence, and innovation. Antonia is dedicated to cultivating workplaces where people thrive and organizations succeed. And I'm very sure a number of us on this call were a testament to that last statement about her profile. So it's really good to have you here this afternoon, Antonia, to moderate the conversation. Please join me as I welcome Antonia. Please use your emojis, your applause, and every other reactions that you like. Thank you, Antonia. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Akolade. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Lovely to be here. Thank you for having me. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening from everywhere across the country you're joining us from. Thank you so, so much for the privilege to be on this panel this afternoon and to anchor this beautiful session. I have amazing panelists here with me today, and we are going to talk extensively about unlocking decent work for African youths. I have Precious, I have Mercy, and I have Omotayo. And I hope you are with your notepads or your device, it is going to be an amazing time. So I'll need you, Akolade, to help project the next. So the first person panelist will be having that will be joining me on set this afternoon is, yes, I love that you have your notepad, Ayoluwa. It's Precious Ajonu, founder of Skills HQ, the beautiful Precious Ajonu. Precious Imowahen Ajonu is the founder of Skills HQ, a management consulting and skills development firm committed to people and organizational transformation. She's also the pioneer director general of the John Odigwe Oyegu Public Service Academy, JOPSA, Edo State, Nigeria. She was appointed to drive the institutionalization of the academy in line with global standards. Our vision was to make the academy a leading learning hub for civil and public servants in Africa. And some of our accomplishments as Director General include spearheading the process that resulted in the enactment of the JOPSA law, training over 10,000 civil and public servants, and forging strategic partnerships with renowned international organizations like NESFOD. I thought by now your applause will just fill the room. The emojis will just keep flying. All right, keep it coming. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Hi, Precious. Thank you. Lovely to have you here this afternoon. Thank you so much. And while you keep the applause coming, the second panelist is the Senior Project Manager at ICT Africa, our very own Omotayo Abraham. Omotayo Abraham is a seasoned project manager and innovation consultant with extensive experience leading impactful projects across Africa. It drives innovation to transform higher education institutions, HEIs, into innovation hubs, connects young people like you and I to opportunities, it nurtures early stage businesses and unlock value within the Africa entrepreneurship ecosystem. As a senior project manager at ICT Africa, he implements projects supporting the mission with an MSc in sociology and certifications in both project management and human resources, ACIPM. Abraham combines his expertise in research, monitoring and evaluation, human-centered design, and business development to create lasting social impact. He is passionate about driving impactful initiatives and supporting systems that improve livelihood and enhance shared prosperity. Can we have rounds of applause for our very own Omotayo Abraham? Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. A whole lot is going to be taken from here today. I hope you are ready. And we have our very own Mercy Oguche. Mercy is the Senior Programs Coordinator at LEAP Africa. She is an impact-oriented international development professional with about 10 years of experience leading collaborative multi-stakeholder programs across Africa in youth development, gender equality, social protection, anti-human trafficking, and health. With a proven track record in designing and facilitating inclusive collaboration training models, creating reflective and co-creating learning journeys, currently leading a Pan-African consortium to implement a large-scale youth internship initiatives across 15 countries. She has experience in bringing strategic insights, cross-cultural fluency, and systems thinking to every engagement. She's passionate about decentralized leadership, capacity building, and fostering team-based learning for systemic change. Mercy has BTech and MSc in industrial chemistry alongside a PhD and MH, that's Masters in Education. Professionally, she's certified PMP in development and Agile Scrum. Currently, she's undergoing studies in leadership credentials at the London School of Business Administration. Can we give it up for Mercy Oguche? Mercy, give us a smile. Good to have you here this afternoon. Where is my very own man of the house on this panel? I am Omotayo Abraham. Good to have you all here this afternoon. And thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing today?
Good afternoon, Antonia. I'm doing very well. Please confirm that you can hear me.
Yes, I can, loud and clear. And I'm sure our audience can hear you as well. Hi, Mercy. How are you today?
Hello, Antonia. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm doing well. Nice to meet you, Precious and Omotayo.
All righty. Hi, Precious. We bear the same name. So I have special love. Hi, Precious. Thank you for joining us and nice to meet you. How are you doing today?
I'm very well, thank you. Really nice to be here. Omotayo, it's good to see you again. I'll be on the panel. And hi, Mercy. Good to see you.
All right. So we are going to take it right up. I hope we are ready. We have 51 participants now, and we're impacting knowledge. So I'm going to be starting with Omotayo since he's on my screen. I'm just going to be starting with you. Omotayo, talking about employability support, placement strategies, the labor markets, the insights you have gotten from the labor markets as an HR specialist. alongside every other thing that you do, and the collaboration with stakeholders over the years. What are the most common barriers you see that the young job seekers face, when trying to enter a workspace? And how do you think that the career services help to overcome these barriers?
All right. Thank you very much, Antonia, for that question. I do think that young people face a lot of, barriers into assessing work, and it's also perhaps more difficult when there are not, abundance of work that are available. So there are two ways to look at the barriers. One is from the place of the job seeker. The other is also from a place of available opportunities. Because if you have skilled folks and there's shortage of opportunities as to where they can work, that in itself it's already a barrier by default. But I'll speak about the first with respect to even like the preparedness or the adequacy of young people with respect to working, when it comes to employment. I think one of the critical things from an employer's point of view, many times is the place of the skills of young people. And when we speak of skills, and that's one of the major barriers, in short, is the primary barrier. And when we speak of skills, you can look at it from the soft skills angle or from the technical skills point of view. But I would dwell more on soft skills, especially if it is not a core technical work like engineering and the like. Many of the things that young people do or in the kind of work that is done. Typically, when young people are grounded with the basic soft skills and they are sound, they would be able to, they can easily, they're agile, they're adaptable, they can learn, they have those sort of soft skills. So I think the core thing is that soft skill when it comes to, assessing job. And when I say soft skills, it refers to professionalism, the ability to communicate properly, the ability to articulate their thoughts, the ability to be agile. I know that while I'd worked once with Precious, and she'll say, Agile Brown, that's the nickname I remember she used to call me. Because in the end, it's the ability to be able to, because the world of work is fast changing, which means that we need young people who are also agile enough to, go with the trend and are ever willing to learn. So I think based off that, if you ask me to sort of try to narrow it down on one thing, I would say it's the soft skills. There's a larger conversation around, education itself in terms of how it prepares young people for work. But summary, I'll just say soft skills for now, and then I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Thank you so much for clarifying. The second part to it is, how can the career services we have around us help overcome them? Do you
Interesting.
think they're even doing anything? Do you think there are more things they can do?
Yeah, I think there are more things they can do. Interestingly, I almost became a rebel against career when I just finished the university. It was because at that time, it looked to me like many career firms were invested in doing two things: preparing young people with respect to how to ace the interview or how to have like the best CV. But it's not just about the CV or the interview skills. You need to be good enough. You need to have the right skills. You need to have the right attitude. You need to have the right knowledge to be able to put your feet at work. So with respect to the career services, organization, I think the first thing is to, understand what exactly are the gaps that exist within the labor market. And there are several reports that exist that speaks to the, existing gaps. So the trainings or the programs that they do should be targeted towards that particular area. So for instance, at ICT Africa where I work, we have certain programs that we've done for young people, which is like called a Skill Forge. The idea behind that was an intervention based off one, it was first from a point of view, we're trying to hire, and then there was a demand and a challenge around, it looks like there were, the application was there, a lot of people were applying, but we're not just getting the best fit, right? So I think from what should they do differently? I would say first is try to understand exactly what are the gaps, what are employers looking for, and what skills do young people need to have. And then based off that, train young people to have like the dominant skills in that sense. The other thing is also walking young people through certain things. Sometimes there's a gap that exists. Many times there's a gap that young people have, but they are not aware of it. So even when there are trainings to upskill them, they will not attend it. So we also need to communicate to young people in the way that they would understand. So I mean, I'm not maybe make some some TikTok videos. So I mean, just get them to at least get them into the room so that they can actually have like those proper conversation that they can see that a gap exists in what they know. And then once they are there, it's not easy for you to now build them up and prepare them, adequately for the world of work.
Thank you so much, Omotayo Abraham. Honestly, the TikTok part got me laughing. But I sincerely agree. There's a way to talk to these younger people. There's a way to have conversations with them in a way that it will not come into this year and exit in, such that they would embody it and it will yield the kind of result that we want. Also understanding that no two human beings are the same. So the peculiarity is really, really, really important. Thank you. Before I move on to Precious, I'd just like to ask you, Abraham, what trends are you seeing right now in employer expectations? Comparing it with the candidate's readiness. So like what I ordered versus what I got. Employer expectation, candidate's readiness in a job place. What do you have to say to that?
I think there's a growing shift of adoption by employers, of technological adoption by employers. So young people need to understand that it's not okay, it's not enough. So when I was in the university, all you needed to know was to know Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, and Excel. And just a bit of, you're just good, you are just able to go ahead and get job. But now it's almost like writing, and everybody's is a basic thing that I would assume that if you're a job seeker and you don't know how to use any of those tools, you're already at a disadvantage, which means, but there is something about something that it can always be worked on. You can always learn again, which goes to the mindset. So the ability to understand that we are in a fast changing landscape of work and that technology is your friend, is not your enemy. So employers are looking to, transform the work that they do, and they will be leveraging tech. So for instance, artificial intelligence is something that, people are already getting used to at this instance from, the ChatGPT to Gemini, a lot of them, Grok, a lot of them already exist. So how are you as a young person leveraging those tools, right, to better understand even your gaps, your skills, knowing what you need to do best? Also, while the likes of the Microsoft Office suite seems to be good, the other part is also that people are also trying to work more collaboratively, more agile, right? So what agile tools do you need to learn? Because of the things that employers really are looking for, a person that is dynamic and agile and able to work collaboratively and able to contribute value as well. Then there's also the technical. I think I'm speaking a lot about soft skills because technical competence is a bit nuanced, but in all of this as well, it's also important that young people are able to do the job that they see that they can do. So you need to build that competence, that domain. But the domain will not be enough. You also need to be sound and be able to relate with your team and also leverage technology for growth. Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Thank you so much. I'm going to just re-echo some of the things you have said. Young people should be able to do the job that they have been employed to do, and they have to be intentional about growth. They should use AI to their advantage, not being lazy and just allowing AI to do all of the things. And then you just send, you send us, maybe assessment is sent to you, and then you send the response. And then just opening the document, we say, oh God, this is ChatGPT Pro Max, So the ability to strike a balance, we hear you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Omotayo Abraham, for sharing. Hi, Precious.
Hello.
Hi. So looking at youth unemployment and the government's policy frameworks and the strategies around these things, as someone who has contributed immensely in shaping shaping policy, what are the most pressing policy gaps that you have seen, you have experienced that are currently contributing to youth unemployment in Nigeria?
That's a very, very good question, Agile Antonia, if you like. I think one of the most important things that we must do, and I must first start by commending the federal government, because there is a shift now towards TVET. If you look at our out-of-school rates, if you look at the number of people who want to get into universities, if you look at how we are creating jobs, for example, because the conversation is about dignified work, but we're not creating enough jobs for the people that we even have in the country. So let's start from there. So it's important that we now start to rethink beyond formal work. You would find that, especially amongst young people, and I'm happy that Abraham alluded to mindset. There's a mindset that we have around TVET, and by TVET, I mean technical and vocational qualifications. That is not quite right. If you look at most of Europe, now talking Germany, Italy, and many of these countries, strong government policies around TVET education has helped push those countries forward. We will not all get formal jobs. We will not all work in banks. We will not all work in Leap Africa, for example, but we need artisans. We need bricklayers. We need mechanics. And you will be surprised how much job vacancies we have in that sector. I'll just give a very quick example. I used to carry locks, and the man who was making my locks was also working in an organization where he was earning 80,000 per month. When he would come make my hair, I would pay 5,000, and that exercise would last only maybe an hour. And then I started to introduce him to people. By the time we scaled it, in 2 days, he was making his entire salary, but he was still struggling to quit his job. You know why? Because how do I say that I'm making a living off making hair for ladies, as opposed to wearing a suit and going to a company, even when it doesn't make sense? So there needs to be some intentional policy drive around mindset orientation in the informal sector. How do we formalize the informal sector in Nigeria so that if you're an artisan, you have access to HMO? If you're an artisan, you know, there's some sort of standard certification that you must go through. If you are an artisan, you know, you are able to still operate within a dignified environment. You know, your work has meaning. People are not degrading you because, you know, they think that what you're doing is menial. For any of us who have lived abroad, you will find that not everybody is actually interested in working in a bank, for example. You will find that a chef is able to get mortgage. You'll find that the person who is cleaning as a career professionally is able to have access to mortgage, is able to train their children in school and all of that. So I think that whilst it's important that, you know, government focus has gone largely to universities over the years, I welcome thinking around TVET. I welcome thinking around formalizing the informal sector. I feel like there are too many Nigerians that are lost in the maze. Another thing in terms of government policy will be around language. I'm very pro-inclusion, and the English language can be very limiting for the full spectrum of Nigeria. Some people are cut out of the opportunities because they cannot speak English. When I was at Jobberman as head youth engagement and learning, one of the very things that we did with the soft skills curriculum that I created was to immediately translate it to Hausa. And, you know, Abraham and my team members can attest that that, of course, had implications for northern Nigeria. So we now need to start to think, because I mean, think about it. When a mechanic is fixing your car, is your worry his ability to speak Queen's English, or that he has the skills, knowledge, and ability to be able to fix your car? I think for most of us, our worry is that you can do the job. So we now need to start to think around our own local languages. How do we create policies that make skills available at grassroots level? How do we, you know, help literacy? How do we even codify? Maybe start with our formal languages, you know, the 3 major languages, and then scale it down. But how do we ensure that even the people that are cut out of, you know, in the far-flung rural areas are still able to go through some form of training, whether it be in their local languages, and then they can still participate in dignified work? I think the biggest task for any government on the African continent today is how to put our youth in work. I think that we are missing a big opportunity in our informal sector, and whoever is able to formalize that informal sector becomes either the most serious government on the continent or becomes the billionaires of the future.
Thank you so much. I feel the passion, and there's no better truth. And as you were speaking, I was like, the technical institutions we have, that's the original intention for creating them. All the technical schools, they were created for handiwork, you know, but it was in those days that when you wear a suit, you're a big man by default. Not in this age and time. We have seen the likes of the richest across the world. They just wear their jeans and they are making money. They are making things happen. And like you said of a truth, in the developed space, the informal sector and more than those in the banking sector. We have seen that happen. And honestly, it cannot be overemphasized that as a nation, that is the way to go. And I love that we are having this this conversation here as young people, so that our mindset is also shifting towards the right direction, not just for ourselves, for those coming, but for those we are opportune to groom, for those we are mentoring, for those in our space, even for our family members, so that there is a balance. Let's just call it formalizing the informal sector. Thank you so much, Precious, for sharing. I'd also like to ask, how can government ensure that the national education and employment policies are aligned with the labor market needs that we have right now?
I think we need to start to have conversations between government and industry. I'm very lucky to be part of a technical working group where we're reviewing the curriculum for the rack sector, refrigerators, repairers, and air conditioning repairers. One of the things that we recommended strongly was to ensure that once before we even start to trigger curriculum change or development, government must be talking to industry, because it's industry that decides what it is that they need. We have too many certified people who are unemployable. As an HR person, we see this all the time. People that we have shortages in one area, and then we have people going to study things that are not necessarily market relevant. So it's very important that government is speaking to industry, and whatever curriculums that we're building, whatever new sectors, whatever capacity building that we're doing is industry informed. Again, I heard you talk about AI, and we live in very interesting times. AI is able to do predictive analysis. So there's also a world where, with technology, so it has to be an ecosystem thinking. Of course, government as the center, in terms of policies, but talking to industry, talking to tech, talking to universities and research, and everybody working together to ensure that we have our youth in work. It's possible for us to sit down today and postulate, maybe not too far into the future, but what are some of the things that we need? We do know that in a few years, by 2030, I think, we're going to have the world's largest young people's continent. It will be called Africa, right? So we already know what are the things that are going to come up if you have so many young people. It means that, and we're already seeing it, that yes, the data is showing that there will be more interest in consuming entertainment. So if there's going to be more interest in the creative industry, what is government doing today in form of policies around that sector, in form of thinking, in form of the kind of curriculums that we are building, so that our universities, our technical centers, everyone is feeding into. So it has to be collaborative. When I did my, and this is not knocking down Nigeria, I'm very passionate about Nigeria. However, I'm one of the people who will tell Nigeria what Nigeria needs to do right. When I did my project in my university, we did it, we submitted it, we got a score, and that was it, right? When I went to the UK and I did my project, it was a very different experience, because doing your dissertation has implication for industry. So you're not just producing research for research's sake. You are producing original research so that you can influence something. So there needs to be that sort of triangulation between the public sector, the private sector, the tech sector as well, where you have Leap Africa, etc. Everybody talking together to ensure that we are learning in-demand skills. Again, this is something very shocking, and young people find it very strange when they hear it. We complain that there are no jobs, but employers on the other side, they complain that our young people are not employable. And that disconnect, we must fix it as a matter of urgency.
Thank you so much. I echo all of the things you have said, especially the last part that speaks to the job availability and the job and the people, applying for this job, the job readiness. I think we can spend the whole day talking about that aspect of the things we do. You apply for a job. I mean, you put a job post out there and you are looking forward to getting, CVs. That's because that a lot of people will always tell you, oh, they need a job, they want to change their job. And then you get the CVs and you're like, are you for real? Is this, with all you have said, this is all you have to send out? you know, and then you go to panel, you like, what's going on here? Did you not read it? The readiness compared to the availability of the job, there's just a contrast there that indeed government has to be in the room, private sector have to be the tech, and maybe a few stakeholders that represent the youths so that they will hear firsthand. And then there will be a, should I call it communion or synergy that would help us to ensure, because Nigeria has policies. It's not in the policies and the number of policies, it's in the implementation. And that is why we're having this conversation, to just spark up something in us, to have the right mindset and to work towards a greater Nigeria. It's Democracy Day tomorrow, for example. You know, thank you so much for sharing. Thank you. Hi, Mercy. Hello.
Hi, Antonia. Yeah, I'm here with you.
Hi, so good afternoon. Thank you for joining us, talking about the skill gaps in Africa and, you know, your experience on this education to employment strategies, the workforce readiness. From your wealth of knowledge, what are the most significant skills mismatch, you know, between graduates and employers in Africa today that you have seen that has, you know, that has made you open your mouth and sometimes to be very shocked and to be like, what's going on here? Can you share with us some so that we can just learn from it? Thank you.
Okay. Hi, everyone, once again. So last year, Omotoya and I, with some members of our team, we're working on a proposal, and we had to do some study. In the process of studying to develop that proposal, I came across a study by Future Work Africa that was done in 2022. And part of what was highlighted was that there was a mismatch between the kind of courses that Nigerian universities do and the industries that are thriving. So it is one thing to go to school and study. It's another thing to actually study for the industry that is thriving and the industry that has potential to grow in future, say in the next, by 2030, 2040, 2050. And part of what was identified is that some of our curriculum are outdated. Some of those courses are not being studied in Nigeria universities, especially public universities where we have majority of our population attending. And in a situation where we even have some graduates that have graduated from that school, because they have not built on what they have learned, they're actually not ready. They are not job ready, because there is still that gap between. So it was more of, so when I was studying, I realized that, okay, one thing is skill gap, another thing is knowledge gap. For instance, how many young people are aware of the current industries that are thriving and the industries that have potential to thrive within the next 20 to 30 years? So for current industries, for instance, we have the software engineers, the product managers. I keep trying to explain this thing, that there's a difference between a program manager and a product manager. It's been a struggle trying to get young people to understand that they are not the same thing, right? We have the UI UX designers, the developers, the user researchers, the data scientists, analysts, and visualizers. Now, we have been hearing a lot about data analysts. People do not understand that it's like an umbrella name. There are so many other aspects embedded in data analysis. So you just see young people wake up and, okay, I want to go into data analysis. And then they come back to tell you, I don't know. I did one course. I did this course. And then when you ask, what do you want to do under data analysis? Then they start staring at you. So there is a knowledge gap. There is the behavioral economics and engineering, healthcare professionals. And we are not just talking nurses and doctors now. You know, it has gone beyond that. It has then agricultural engineers and agri-tech. These are the ones we used to laugh at when we were in school. Somebody tells you I'm in the Department of Agricultural Engineering. What you want to do? You want to drive machine on the farm. Now this is a thriving sector at the moment. How many young people are aware? The creative professionals, like Precious mentioned earlier, that currently it's a thriving industry that has potential to grow bigger in future. And then the teachers and educationists, especially the tech educators, we now have EduTech. How many young people are aware that teaching now goes beyond the four walls of a school or a classroom? Because in Nigeria, the system does not even help, where it is people who do not do well in JAMB that are posted to Department of Education. So even the system has configured our mindset that people will go into teaching are people who don't know anything. And yet these are people that are supposed to educate the leaders of tomorrow. So they don't even make the sector, interesting, despite the fact that they are poorly paid. So a lot of factors are not even helping. Potential to thrive more in future, because even if AI is coming, somebody has to design what AI is going to expand on in the teaching sector. These industries are going to grow bigger, and some new industries are energy and power, talking about the biotech sector now. Beyond, we are going solar and everything. We're talking about, I have schoolmates now who are doing so well because after they graduated, they went to learn something in that area. Now, coming down to my current experience in managing projects. So we are currently implementing a Pan-African project on where we are supporting young people to
I think we're having some network glitch there.
Applicants at all. And when we even tried to match what the employers were looking for with the roles that were available, like we had pool of applicants, like, okay, let's even try and match. We couldn't find young people who had basic prerequisite educational knowledge to match these employers. So here's an employer willing to support 50 young people, but we don't even have young people who studied in that area that applied out of thousands of applicants. So starting from the educational institution, the beyond secondary school now, because it's supposed to be a program for graduates, there is a very wide gap. And this is not just Nigeria, but we're even talking of Africa now at large. And then you're wondering why somebody that graduated from UK came into Nigeria and then the person got a job, and probably the person is even, like leading you. And I don't get angry. Find out what the person studied. Find out what the person must have learned that you have probably never been exposed to that qualified them for that role. So yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. As you were speaking, there was a lot going through my mind. I was like, of a truth, it starts from the education sector, from that grassroots, honestly, because if we do a survey in this room right now to ask, how many of you studied the course you applied for in the university, polytechnic? If we do a quick survey right now. So everyone in the room, if you studied the course your first course when you did JAMB, that one you imputed, if that was what you studied in the university, can I get a yes? If it is a no, can I get a no in the comment section right now? Because mine is a no. Okay, I have 3 no's. Keep it coming, keep it coming. Oh, I have 2 yes, no, yes. Okay. Okay, thank God we have Mel here. They are going to do the analysis for us. Okay. Okay, you can see the number of no's we are having in the room. And this is where it starts from. And I remember then in school, they make you love whatever course they give to you. Because why not if not? So the school system looks at what department has no enough candidates right now. So they push you there. Some of us wrote JAMB 4 times. Why? Because we wanted to study medicine. Now, the medicine we wanted to study, was it from love for medicine? No, but because our parents said, you have to be a medical doctor. So we keep writing JAMB. I remember my first JAMB, I scored 255. The second one, I scored 247. It just kept dropping. And then there was nothing like post-UME. It just, the zeal. After 4 years, I had to go and do pre-degree in LAUTECH to be able to get, so I wasted 4 years. And if you're in a developed country, which is why Precious said, it's not like she doesn't love Nigeria, but you know, you have to take learnings from this developed country to make things better for your own country. And by the time I was given it, because guess what course I was given? I was given management and accounting. And I've done science all my life. I've titrated, and it was really difficult, you know, to even understand double entry system, to be doing accounting in a school of science and technology. Now, that is another educational issue, because that school was originally made for science students. It's for science and technology. Now, because they see that there's money making in business administrations, now they introduced Faculty of Management Sciences. In fact, sorry this story is interesting. You know, when you say you come and give your testimony in church and or in mosque, you know, so when I got the admission, we were in Faculty of Engineering. Now, what is the correlation between engineering and accounting or with management? We were doing woodwork, we were doing welding until 200 level. So they used us to do practical before they tried to get it right a bit. And then we started accounting, we started finance. We had to start going to get comprehensive book of secondary school for this that you used in SS2 and SS3, because we did chemistry, we did physics. So it was strange, you know. And when we were in 400 level, most of our lecturers were ICANN lecturers too. So they started preaching to us to do ICANN. And more than half of my class were doing ICANN. They registered for ICANN, they want to be certified because our lecturer said so. I didn't go that route because by then I already knew I was going to do HR, you know. And then 500 level, when we went for internship, it was clear the direction, but quite a number of us that finished with all the delay and all, we graduated in 2012. Yes, was it 2012 or 2002? When we graduated, I can tell you that between then and now, quite a number of people are still trying to figure out their direction and purpose for life. I'm just trying to buttress the point Mercy has made, in case you didn't get it. What we are saying is that the education sector needs a rebranding, because it's like they use us as experiments to try to get things right. And then by the time people are graduating and then they're getting a job, they don't understand what the job is all about. They did not learn anything from school. And that is why you cannot take the place of informal education away. That's handiwork. It is really key. So I'm just employing you. Whatever you have come here with to take away, don't forget that you are also a factor. And there is no knowledge you get from this gathering, this panel discussion today that is a waste. You have to see, they gave someone biochemistry. I mean, she applied for biochemistry. They gave her crop production. How? They just help you rearrange your life. So it's actually from the grassroots. However, because someone has asked a question that, do we think that triangulation would solve the problem? Maybe it will not solve all the problems, but we are going to start from somewhere. We are not going to pretend or assume that there are no gaps. And that's what we are educating ourselves and, you know, we have to do a total reformation, total rebranding to the education sector. And we all have to be intentional about it. The Nigeria we desire begins with all of us on this call right now. And because we also have our own network of contact of reach of people. And so I'm going to ask you, Mercy, talking about the technical and vocational education and training, how can it be reformed? I know Precious also mentioned it when she was talking. How can it be reformed, to better meet the demand of the 21st century industries? What do you think we need to do? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So currently, the polytechnics and the technical schools are actually mandated on the formal ground now, formally, to sort of train people on some of these skills. However, we also have the thriving sectors that are not captured in these formal sectors. And I remember, was it 2009? ASU strike happened after my industrial technology program, and I was bored. And thank God for the kind of parents I have. They are just allergic to just seeing somebody idle. So my parents were like, what would you like to learn instead of just wasting this time? And my mom took me to the National Center for Women Development. And I spent 3 months there. And in that 3 months, I learned tailoring. In 3 months, I was going there 3 times a week, 3 hours a day. In those 3 months, I could actually cut and sew clothes. And I was shocked when I was there that some of the people that I started with were telling me how they had gone to other places to learn for 3 years, and they did not even know how to operate a machine or cut clothes. Because when it is time, that's when Madam will send them to market to go and buy okra. It is when it is time that Oga will send them to go and buy food or go and buy this and that. So when it was time for them to learn the real skill, they get sent on errands. And then they are there for 2 to 3 years and they don't learn anything. And these are sectors that are thriving because, for instance, now somebody wants to be a fashion designer and you want to go to, say, maybe Prudential Fashion Designing Institute, or you want to go and learn other Vicky James. You need to have basic tailoring skills before you can go to those places. You need to have basic designing and sewing skills, and before you can. So to get this skill now, that is where we now have this problem. And one of the things I keep looking at is there is nothing wrong in the government introducing a policy to actually guide this structure. We are not saying people should go there people should stop learning from these other informal persons, that are probably in the same neighborhood where we live or in the same community where we live. We're not saying we should have more women development centers across the nation, but we can actually create a structure where if you want to train people, you have to register. Well, even if it's at the local government area council, register. If you know you want to go beyond attending to customers to start training people, register. And when people come to register with you, we need to be monitoring what you're doing with them. So people are not there for 2 to 3 years and they've not learned anything. A boy is doing mechanic for 5 years and he's still struggling to pump tire. There's a problem. He can't change tire. There's a problem. So we can create that. I mean, I'm very sure we have a department somewhere. If you check, I can bet on it. And there's probably a department somewhere. All we just have to do is to just, maybe shock them a bit, to come alive and get these people to register, make it legal, that when people come to enroll to train with you, we know, okay, for the next few months, these are the young people that are training under you. Once in a while at random, we are coming to monitor. We are not holding meetings with you. We are coming to check. So we just need to regulate these things. So people are not doing things the way they like. So I've met a couple of people who are now engineers and they are wiring buildings and doing big projects, right? But the thing now is, there is also that gap in the market where at the end of the day, even with your formal certification for TVET training, to get well paid for the professional skills they are delivering, mind you. So at the point, because you just have to put food on the table, you are willing to just accept anything. And, half bread, how do we say it? Half bread is better than chin-chin. Let me just take it and go. So we need that regulation in the sector, because when somebody is telling you dress
Okay, I think network is having
that we are doing for free. Some of us have been doing it for free. The reason I will make money there that I know what I should get paid. And also hairdressing in what's the name of this country? Ireland. She couldn't charge as much as people were charging there because she did not have work permit. So you can see that structures are there. But is willing to pay you. You just have to take what is available. So we just need that structure to guide that sector to say, okay, this is the pricing. If you're training people, these are the things that must be put in place. These are the rules.
okay. I think the key takeaway from our responses, we have to have structures and we have to hold them accountable. We also need to, there are several structures in Nigeria actually, in paper, and Africa at large in paper, but making it work is where we are going right now. I think lastly, I would like to ask you, Mercy, from your experience so far in the Africa space, you know, what are the models you have seen in other African countries or strategies that has been used over time and has been efficient, has been effective in bridging the gap between the education and employment, you know, that we can speak to, so that we are not just talking to gaps alone. We're also speaking to systems across Africa that we have seen that are working, you know, that we can learn from and also emulate as individuals. Oh, okay. I think the network. Okay. Precious, I think I would like to pose the question towards you, Hannah Motayo. I would just like to have your take. You have been across, you know, beyond Nigeria, and this is about Africa. It's not just about Nigeria. What are the things that you have seen that has worked so well? I know you have mentioned a few during our previous conversation, but can you highlight some more that are working that can be used, that we can start using in our, there are people here from different workspace of life, different sectors that we can imbibe and we can start using in our space. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Antonia. Can you hear me good? Awesome.
Loud and clear.
So for some reason, I'm still going to stay with the informal sector, and it's for two reasons. Number one, I want to highlight it. And number two, that's where we have the most potential in terms of unlocking opportunities. I think there's a lot of things that African countries can learn from each other. If you go to Benin Republic, for example, I'm very impressed in terms of how organized their informal sector is, you know, well standardized with certifications. And you would observe that there is a mindset also that they've been able to drive. And that's why you will find that people feel very comfortable hiring from that part of Africa and some other parts. I think there's a lot that we can learn around. And I say this both for formal and informal sectors. And if I have young people here, I need you to listen. There's such a thing called character that we need to learn mainstream across the entire continent. We still don't have enough people with character. It's not just having your technical skills, is you having character, is you understanding that there's such a thing called reputation capital. I've been in learning and development for the past 15 years. I just only recently now started Skills HQ. 100% of the work that we've done since inception have come from my reputation. People that I've worked with in different parts of the continent who have worked with me before saying, come and do X, come and do Y. So I say it as something that has benefited me, that will benefit you. We now have to start to think in terms of character. Also, there is a dearth of critical thinking. What do I mean by that? I feel that as Africans, we're just not thinking enough. What do I mean? There's too much focus on rent seeking. Everybody wants to, buy land, let it increase, and then we sell it, and then we're millionaires. Not enough people thinking about how do we produce? How do we, contribute? I mean, look at all the AI noise that's happening now. How much of that are we a part of? How much origination of those sort of technologies are we becoming a part of? Africa needs to stop playing catch up. There's so much that we can do with the young people that we have on this continent. But I argue this, and this is the trust of my PhD thesis. This is the trust of the work that I do. I think that we do have a mindset challenge on this continent that we need to fix very quickly. Whether it's in our governance, whether it's in the way that we have organized our education, whether it's in the way that our politicians prioritize, whether it is even in the work ethic of our young people. How many of us are building to last? If you go for seminars like this and you tell young people, look, design a 30-year career, you lose them. Everybody wants to hear the thing that they will do in 6 months, in 24 hours, that will make them great. But I'm sorry to shock you, there is still work. No matter how much you pray, a woman is going to have to spend an average of 9 months before she produces a child. Otherwise, it's premature. There could be complications. If you plant a seed, it's going to take a while before it comes. There are laws of nature that govern humanity. So I think we need to dial back. There's a lot that we can learn from each other. And we should travel more. I think that Africans travel more to Europe and to the global north than we travel within ourselves. And there's a lot that we can learn when we start to tap things around, there's AfTA, the trade agreements. There's a lot that we can learn from each other as opposed to being apart as we are. I've gone to countries where I've thought, wow, Nigerians can learn from this work ethic. We can learn from their character. We can learn from how they're codified. And I've seen countries where I think they would learn a lot about resilience from Nigerians. They will learn a lot about, our never say die mindset. The average Nigerian is out there. When we get into that, we take up space, we dominate. So I would just, close by saying we really need to start to think critically as a continent. We now need to start to build for the future, the cathedral thinking. If you travel to Europe, you would find that a lot of those cathedrals that we're still so enamored by, like we're so impressed by, they were built in centuries that none of us was born in, 18th, 17th centuries, far back into the future. So what it meant was they had ancestors and visionaries that sat down today and then they were thinking far into the future. Africans need to start to think futuristically. We now need to dial back a little bit and start to, stop being rent seekers and start to think in terms of strategy. This decision we're about to take, whether it's in your career, your personal life, whether it's as government, what implication does it have today? What implication does it have midterm? And what are the long-term implications? And if the long-term implications don't make sense, which we have no business doing it. And then Africans need to work together. What's so interesting, as someone who travels a lot, is oftentimes I'm in countries where people don't even know I'm Nigerian. So I always say to them, if I say, oh, guess where I'm from? It's so funny. Yes, there's everything but Nigeria sometimes. And it's funny. So there's more that unites us than separates us, right? We're really, for all intents and purposes, the same people. We will get more from collaborating, from working together, from learning from each other than we will get from working in silos. So that would be my own contribution.
Thank you. That was a passionate one. Thank you so much. We are indeed consumers. Most African countries are consumers. We have to learn to be producers, And honestly, I don't think it's said enough. Attitude is the way to altitude. No matter the job, the technical knowledge you have, you must have the right attitude to the job, to everything. You have to have integrity. Integrity is so scarce right now that it's so scary. And yes, we need to really think sustainability, think futuristically. Thank you so much. If we round off at this point, it's more than enough. But how can we round off if we have not heard from Omotayo Abraham? Omotayo, tell us, what do you think that looking at Africa, what have you seen in African countries that you think that we can imbibe? Because there's something, despite the peculiarity of Nigeria, there's something Precious talked about. We have the ability to adapt. Our adapting nature as a country is a plus. We are resilient people. But what do you think about other African countries that we can use for ourselves, personal, career, and even in our businesses, and even in raising younger generations? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Antonia, and thank you very much, Precious, for that. That's very awesome thoughts that you have shared. I think I'll just sort of build around that, and I'll talk about collaboration. There's a lot that we can learn from each other, and I'll say this from a point of view that we have a lot of similarities, and we also have a lot of unique peculiarities, which basically means that if we see what Ghana has done, for instance, we can learn from Ghana because somehow we have some shared problems. And so if Ghana can do it, there's a great chance that Nigeria can also do the same, or something similar to maybe something that Ethiopia did, maybe Nigeria can also borrow a cue. And if Nigeria did it, maybe Kenya can also do the same thing, because our context largely are very similar. In terms of, I'll speak more from the educational point of view. So we did a study last year that was basically looking at innovation and entrepreneurship, but it was looking at it from the context of higher education institutions. So that's your TVET, your technical, your technology, that's the technical schools, the universities, polytechnics, and all of that. And the focus was primarily around which university or what institutions were getting it right. So it wasn't about the challenges, now it was about what institutions do we have in Africa that are currently doing great work. And interestingly, I will say that there were some countries that we found that a lot of the answers that we found as like models are from that country. One of the countries is South Africa. And South Africa's educational system is built, because one of the things that when we look at decent work or even young people seeking work, we have to look at it from two angles: building the skill set of those that are looking to be employed, so from the soft skills to the technical skills. There's also the ability of young people to also be entrepreneurial, to be innovative, to look at a problem and be able to create solution, to be able to do research, and then from that research to be able to commercialize what they have found. So imagine, I think Precious mentioned that our PhD and even our program when she was outside Nigeria. The beauty that she liked about it was the fact that the research that she had done is applicable, to industry. So it means that we need to rethink how we are currently working on our educational structure. It's not working, and it's not something we need to go very far to find. There are already African countries that are already getting it right. So we need to just ask, how are they doing it, and then learn from them, modify it to suit our own, our own terrain, and then use that to our advantage. So I'm going to give a few recommendations around how that can be done. I think one of the critical things that I said is around, understanding what are the trends in terms of how work is being, the world of work is shaping, and our curricula trying its best to be able to, so the department that we have in institutions should speak to current work realities, right? It should speak to the kind of work that young people will be, they will be not just be relevant in Nigeria, but it will also be relevant, globally. The other thing I want to say is that no matter how agile your curriculum is, if you are in a structured environment, your curriculum might not be able to capture the pace of growth that the world is currently experiencing, which means that institutions have to learn to leverage like the webinar structure approach, webinar seminars, some short-term programs that can, help with the gap. So if, for instance, the institutions do not have like the core departments because they need to go through NUC, for instance, to be able to adopt certain courses into their institutions. They can have like they can have something on the side, like a boot camp, like a structured webinar, some sessions that begins to bring to the consciousness of undergraduates within those institutions the opportunities that does exist. The other thing I would say is research to commercialization. If young people are doing research, we need to begin to ask them not impartial fulfillment of the award of BSc. No, it's not just that. It has to be something that is tailored to solving a problem, like a research problem. Because people get paid for value, right? if you're providing value, then you're going to get paid. When you're out of the institutions, it's either you're going to be able to create job, or even when you get to the world of work, if you're already creating value while you're in the institutions, that value will also work. I think the third part I would say is around innovation. That's around those that play a role like enterprises, or many enterprises and startups even starts from universities. And I'll give certain examples. So University of Stellenbosch in South Africa, for example, you find out that a lot of startups within the institutions have also been able to grow up to what we call the spin-outs, which means that they've been able to also get funding outside of the institution invested in them, and they also got like, Serie A fundings and some other way, and that also created like a big change within the ecosystem. Finally, I think one other thing I was, because I know Price is talking about the mindset largely, is around the need for availability for the will from government. The truth is, there are things that we can do in silos, but if we want accelerated change, as playing within the ecosystem, we cannot innovate or entrepreneurship our way out of all problems. We need to always have this conversation, and more time, bring the government to the room as well, so that they can understand what exactly the realities are, and we are co-creating with them. Like, we need to start co-creating together. There are so many fragmented creation going on, and the earlier we start doing this, the better for everybody. I think that would be my my thoughts on this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Omotayo. I love the way you started with collaboration and ended with collaboration. We cannot keep working in silos. We need to speak out. We need to work with people, government agencies, partnerships, synergy, because at the end of the day, even across Africa, we are all unique. We have to also be open to learning. Thank you super much, for sharing. And yes, research and commercialization. That's the way. When you said, I said, yes, Leap Africa, we are there. We are there. Thank you so much. Innovation, thinking outside of the box. It is said that the law of madness is doing the same thing repeatedly and desiring a different result. We cannot just keep doing things the same way. And that is the essence of this gathering, so that across Africa, we are able to learn, we're able to improve, we're able to even get better. Welcome back, Mercy. Good to have you. Sorry, I know you're not so happy about the network thing, because you have a lot you want to talk to us about. So sorry, and it's so beautiful to have you here. So I'll just allow you give us your last word before we go into question and answer. So if you have questions, we'll just use the next 5 minutes to answer questions. Please just drop it, and we'll take the questions. Now, the questions I see after Mercy speaks would be taken. All right, Mercy, can you give us your last word? We have talked about the things that are working in other African countries that we can imbibe in Nigeria. I mean, as individuals in our country, in work life, and even so the people we mentor and the people we groom. So they are shared. And I would just like you to talk about that and just round off. Give us your last thoughts on that. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much. So I was just watching and I just watched everything went planned. All right, thank you so much. So to a large extent, Precious and Omotayo had spoken extensively about mindsets and character and personal development. Just a little bit about myself. I read industrial chemistry, both at first degree and second degree level. And along the line, I realized that I love social development. And maybe because NYSC posted me there. And I got exposed to this part and I liked what I was doing. But I didn't have the prerequisite degree that could fit me. So I knew that during recruitment, and they are checking if my course even aligns before HR would consider me for interview. My course did not align. So what did I do? I had to go back to school. And I did a PhD in education, a master's degree in education, and then doing some other courses. Till now, we are still studying. You'll be hearing about learning and development and everything. What am I trying to say to young people? It's not easy, but you see that that goal that you desire, that thing that you're trying to reach, you can actually work towards it. You can actually be intentional in working towards this. So do not say, okay, because, you know, we like to blame the system a lot, and it's not helping you. It's not helping me. It's not even looking like things will change in the next 20 to 20 years if we want to tell ourselves the truth. So what do we do differently? You know, being privileged to work with other young people outside of Nigeria has also given me the opportunity to see how young people accept changes. So you see young people rising up to the challenge. Typical example, those in the Francophone region, they are beginning to see that to get jobs in the global market, they need to know how to speak English. And while we are engaging young people in Nigeria and they are telling us the money they are giving us is not enough. My supervisor did this. Where I am working, they are doing that. They are doing you know, and you're meeting other young people and they are saying, please, can you connect us to how we can learn English at a subsidized rate? So by the time we are rounding off with this 1 year, we can speak basic English that can qualify us for other opportunities. And I have to be the one to ask, is this stipend enough for you people? And guess what? Theirs is not even enough because the standard of living in Senegal, for instance, is very high compared to Nigeria. So you can see the difference in mindset, like what Precious was emphasizing about. And this thing of, you know, we have superiority complex. So it's always Nigeria and London, Nigeria and America. We don't even bother about other regions. When we went to Nairobi, for instance, we realized that their internship program is backed by policy. And they told us internship program must be paid. It does not exceed 6 months. So if you want to do your program, you cannot call it internship. You cannot call them interns because it's exceeding 6 months. So you go there, you hear associates. So you can see how Kenya here is not far. Because when we say we should have Kenya now, this our mouth can be social. It's not far, but you can see how there's a policy that backs internship. Whereas in some part of Africa, then I don't want to call my country, you know, somebody say, you should even be happy that we gave you an opportunity to come and learn. And nobody will even give you transport fare because there is no policy backing it. That is why I've seen people volunteering for 3 years until I told them, is there something wrong with you? You know, why are you not looking for other opportunities after 3 years when you're not even being paid? I don't understand. So it's no longer the employer now. It's not the fact that they are not taking charge on themselves to even move forward. They are afraid of what I don't even know is out there. So yes, it is hard, but it is doable. That is what I can tell you. Some of you are not even married yet. I used to say it when I meet young women, you know, don't wait for a man to come and pay for your master's degree program. Don't wait until you get married. So your father has finished paying school fees or your uncle has finished also. Even your mom. You don't have to wait until you get married to get that degree, you know, to do that program. Do it now. Funnily, if you're focused on all these things, the more you improve on yourself, the more you place value on yourself, the more you should know what you shouldn't even settle for. So what are you doing with your time now beyond being on Instagram and TikTok and LinkedIn and Twitter? What are you doing with your time now to actually improve on yourselves and improve on your value? Are you checking online to know which industry is going to boom in the next 10 years? How does it align with the skill and the knowledge that I have? How can I fit into it? So you can work on yourself and begin to prepare yourself for that future. So you do not blame the system tomorrow, because believe me, you can beat the system if you put in the work. Thank you.
Thank you. So in summary, she's saying that the responsibility is on you. You cannot keep blaming the system. Learning is progressive. Roll up your sleeves and get to work now that is this day. There's so much we can do. There are 2 questions I see here in the chat. The first one was about, I think Akolade helped to answer that. The first one was about how to volunteer at Leap Africa. Is there any opportunity? We're running a volunteer for development right now. It's projects we currently run, and you can join us. Just send us an email. Send an email to careers@leapafrica.org, and then we pick it from there. We can send you more information. The second question, however, I would like to direct it to Precious to kindly help us answer. The question is there a way that the country can go beyond providing skills for young people to also providing empowerment and platforms for the practice of these skills?
That's a very, very good question. The reason I started Skills HQ, and I say this all the time, is young people need skills that they can monetize. Skills that they can monetize. When we started our work at Jobberman, 2020 during COVID, doing skills training at scale was still exciting. So obviously it was easy to find young people because there was promise that they will get dignified work in the end, right? So one of the reasons why you also find that a lot of Nigerian young people are wary of these skills trainings that you do, and they say, oh, pay me for my time, is they also feel like it's just for you as the development organization to tick your numbers. Let's be real. What are you training me for, right? If at the end of the day, I come for the training and then there are no job opportunities for me. So those are the arguments. And every time I'm in these meetings, you would see somebody say, I have 10 certifications, I have 12, I have 15, and I still do not have dignified jobs. Most of them are still underemployed. So the argument that there are not enough jobs, data backs it. We are not creating, I think every year we create about 2 million jobs on average. Compare that to the number of young people that we have within that 18-year bucket. Even if all of them were agile and ready, we just do not have enough jobs, period. So what do we do? And that's something that I have been thinking about, and I've been in, a lot of policy think tanks and all. How do we solve this problem? I think that there are several things. It's not one. The first one is we now have to also start to think in terms of job creation. So these people that we're training, are we training them to go and look for jobs, or we're training them to be self-sufficient? So we now need to start to design programs where at the end of the program, so there's something that we ran in partnership with an organization for the South region, where at the end of the program, you get your toolkit, we set up your business, you register your name, and before you even leave class, you've started, doing something. Some of them were able to sell with their, classmates and start to make money. Because again, I think oftentimes when we look at not just the theory of change, when we look at the loop, we often focus too much on the skills acquisition, but the skills acquisition needs to end up in work. That's when the loop, the development loop is complete, when I have dignified work. So we need to put our eyes there. So obviously entrepreneurship. Another reason why I say we need to urgently unlock the opportunities in our informal sector is because, again, we don't have enough companies in Nigeria that will be able to employ the young people who need jobs. And I think in some African countries it's like that, but I don't think there's any other African country that has the kind of large informal sector that we have. There's so much value that we are not capturing that exists in our markets, in all our informal sector. So if we can formalize it, if we can pull out, some of this, because some of these numbers in terms of jobs, we're not even capturing it, right? If we can formalize it, what do I mean? Ensure that the jobs are dignified. So yes, they are already making value there. My mechanic is doing okay. But sometimes you go to the workshop and they don't have the best practices. And this is where government can come in to say, okay, how do we support our small businesses, our MSMEs, who are the people who employ the most anyway? How do we start to think around policies that encourage more people to start businesses? Because unless we are triggering the employment side of things, we are still going to have too many people who have so many different skills. I think it was in this country, I'm not going to call the names, where some company was looking for truck drivers and PhD holders applied for the position. PhD holders applied because when it comes down to it, what a man, an adult man or woman is thinking is, how do I feed my family? Not how do I store these fancy degrees that I have. So if this truck driving is going to help me feed my family, they are going to want to do it. So we need to, as government, as stakeholders, start to focus on sectors that, and then what are also the sectors? When we start to look at the data, where can we trigger, jobs? When do we do one thing and then we'll have multiplier effect? Should we be looking at, tech only? Should we be looking at the real sector? Should we be looking, because again, remember, and I had this conversation recently, you layer tech on something, but it appears now that with all the startups, all the focus is on technology, but not on the real sector that you're going to layer tech on. Tech does not exist on its own. It exists layered on something. So what is our focus on those real sectors? The creative sector, if we take it for example, what sort of policies and what are the things that we can do to trigger, maybe let's say 10 million jobs there? In most countries, and if you follow the US elections and just, most of these global north countries, how many jobs are created per day is part of your manifesto. What you are going to do as president or as, an elected officer when you come to be able to ensure that they continue to have jobs for their people is important. So there needs to be a lot of thinking and strategy, not just into skills acquisition, which is the first loop, but in triggering jobs so that our people can have dignified work. And I believe very strongly that there's potential in our informal sector that we need to unlock as a matter of urgency.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Precious. Thank you so much for breaking that down for us. And we're just saying to you that decent work for African youths is possible. It is doable. We might not get it all at once at a go, but consistency, eyes on the goal, rolling our sleeves to do the work, being focused, being intentional, we are going to get there. And if I see Anuluwapo ask in the chat that, what's the way forward? It begins with you. From everything that's been said today, we are saying that you are the change that is required in your world. Regardless of the African country you reside, you are that change. It starts with you. It starts with your mindset. That was where we started this conversation from. Start with your ideology. It starts with your approach to things, to your intentionality about the decisions you make, especially now that you are young. Before the things of life, if these people on this panel start telling you how life has, shifted, but they are focused and trying to, but now that you still can make those decisions, be open to learning, growth, opportunities, embracing it, being high on integrity. You can teach the work, but you cannot teach character. Trying to be utmost level of respect, of intelligence, of integrity, of innovation. That's what we are speaking to. So you're looking for where to start a change. Look at yourself and say it begins with me. So it begins with you and I. We are the one that will make Africa the Africa we desire. No British man will come and change it for us and make it for us and make it what we desire. It is you and I together, collaborating, synergizing, working together, learning from one another, making it work. So we are just challenging you to start now. There's little to what government can do. We have seen it. Let's start from where we are as Africans, developing Africa for Africans. Thank you so much, panelists. Thank you so much, Precious. Thank you, Omotayo. Thank you, Mercy. It's been fantastic, educating, eye-opening, and really impactful having you here this afternoon. Thank you super much. And we want to thank the MEL team that organized this, Leap Africa, the management of Leap Africa, the executive director of Leap Africa, the director of programs of Leap Africa, and all the team members that made this work. Thank you so much for being intentional about the young people, about the place of work, about Africa, about decent work for African youth. Thank you so much for impacting us and for creating time, to put this together free. Thank you so much. Beautiful audience, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for creating time because you have given your time and we hope that you have learned one or two. Thank you. I would like to yield now to Akolade. It's been a pleasure. Bye for now.
Wow. Thank you very much, Antonia, for that powerful and fantastic moderation. That was a very, very brilliant and insightful panel discussion. I'm sure our participants and attendees, they are very excited and they are pleased as I am. During the conversation, there are so many key points and brilliant and insightful takings that we were able to pick from the conversations. Looking at the engagement in the chat box and even the questions and reactions, I'm very, very glad that we had this conversation this afternoon. Thank you very much, Antonia, for facilitating and moderating so beautifully and wonderfully. It's such a powerful conversation. So I must say, some of our participants would agree that this is a masterclass in employability and maybe job creation and creating dignified work. It's such a masterclass. It's so powerful and insightful key points to take away. Yeah. So just before we call it a day, Antonia has done so well to appreciate our panelists. Omotayo, thank you very much. We always call on you and thank you for always answering us every time we call. Precious, thank you so much. This is like a first time like me or listening to you, and it's a powerful one. And I must say, like, I'm looking forward to also listening to you and inviting you for subsequent engagement. Mercy, thank you very much. It's always powerful and passionate listening to you. Thank you so much for giving out your time today. And Antonia, thank you so much also for facilitating and moderating beautifully. We are very grateful for dedicating your time and insights this afternoon. So before we round off, we have a few announcements we want to make. First thing is the feedback form, which we are going to put in the chat box. And so please kindly share your feedback for us regarding the sessions you just had. So what are some of the wonderful experience and insights you took away from the session? And what are the things that perhaps you want us to do better going forward? So please respond to the feedback form. So it's coming up on the screen now. So you can scan the QR code or follow the link in the chat box. So another thing I want to mention, thank you, Samuel. It's such a masterclass. So some of the attendees, you've mentioned if you could connect with our panelists and moderator on LinkedIn. So you can look them up on LinkedIn. So you can connect with them, you can share, can send friend requests to them and connect with them on LinkedIn so that you are able to see some of the wonderful works they are doing in the ecosystem. And you may never know, by following them, you can also be able to see some opportunities that they are working on that you can benefit from. So kindly follow them on LinkedIn and share requests to them. Yeah. So we also have, this is our second Dissemination Wednesday for the year. So the first one, we had it last month, and it was also another brilliant conversation. So we have another one coming up in September. So that one will be about leveraging evaluation for program improvement. So please watch out for the promotions and the communications material. So you are going to see it. So we also urge you to participate and join us for that Dissemination Wednesday that will be coming up in September. So another opportunity that we have for you is the virtual M&E training. We recently conducted our advanced monitoring, evaluation, research and learning training, and we had about 20 participants from different parts of the world. And it was a very wonderful one with our facilitators and participants. So we are preparing for our virtual M&E training. So this is like the basic version of the M&E training. So if you are someone that you are interested in the MER space, or you are a development professional and you are looking at getting understanding about monitoring and evaluation, so you can look forward to this training so that you can benefit from it. Yeah. So those are the two announcements we want to make for you. Yeah. So please, you can go back to the feedback form. Kindly respond to it and help us to fill that feedback form. So thank you very much, and we are grateful for you joining us this afternoon. Please do enjoy the rest of your day as you go back, as you return to your different activities for the day. Thank you. Take care, everyone.